What if everything you've been told about attracting money has been backwards? What if the very act of chasing wealth is precisely what's keeping it away from you? I know this sounds counterintuitive, especially in a world that glorifies the hustle, celebrates the grind, and tells you that success only comes to those who fight tooth and nail for every dollar. But what I'm about to share with you today might completely transform your relationship with money and abundance. Have you ever noticed something strange? The harder you chase after money, the more it seems to slip through your fingers like water. You work longer hours, you sacrifice your peace, you push yourself to the breaking point, and yet somehow you never quite feel financially free. Meanwhile, you look around and see people who seem to attract wealth effortlessly, almost as if money is drawn to them by some invisible force. What's their secret? Are they just lucky? Do they know something you don't? The truth is, they do know something, and what you're about to discover might surprise you, because it goes against everything our modern culture teaches about success and prosperity. Stay with me until the end, because this principle has the power to shift your entire financial reality. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Here's the radical truth. Money is shy. Yes, you heard that right. Money, like any form of energy in this universe, responds not to desperation, but to stillness. It doesn't follow the one who begs, pleads, or frantically chases. It follows the one who is calm, centered, and at peace. Think about it for a moment. When you're desperate, when you're anxious about bills, when you wake up at 3 in the morning worrying about your bank account, what kind of energy are you broadcasting to the world? That's right, scarcity, fear, and lack. Has this ever happened to you? You needed money urgently, you stressed about it constantly, and the more you worried, the worse things seemed to get. But then perhaps during a vacation or a moment when you finally let go and relaxed, an unexpected check arrived, a new opportunity appeared, or money showed up from somewhere you didn't expect. This isn't coincidence. This is the law of energy in action. The wisdom traditions have known this for thousands of years, yet somewhere along the way, we forgot. We bought into the belief that wealth requires struggle, that ease equals laziness, and that if you're not exhausted, you're not working hard enough. But what if the opposite is true? What if ease, grace, and inner stillness are actually the magnetic forces that draw abundance toward you? What if your relaxed, peaceful energy is worth more than 1,000 hours of anxious labor? This is where most people get it completely wrong. They confuse activity with productivity and tension with passion. They think that by staying in constant motion, they're moving toward their goals. But really, they're just running in circles, burning energy that could be used to actually receive the abundance that's trying to reach them. The universe operates on frequency, and your frequency when you're stressed, desperate, and struggling is completely different from your frequency when you're relaxed, trusting, and open. So the question becomes, how do you shift from chasing to attracting? How do you move from the exhausting energy of pursuit to the magnetic energy of stillness? And more importantly, how do you maintain that state of ease when the bills are real, the responsibilities are pressing, and everything around you is screaming that you need to do more, be more, and have more? That's exactly what we're going to explore together, and the answer might be simpler than you think. Let me tell you something that might sound absolutely radical. Abundance is not something you earn. I know. This goes against every message you've ever received from parents, teachers, bosses, and society at large. We've been conditioned to believe that wealth is the prize at the end of a grueling marathon of sacrifice and struggle. But here's the hidden truth that the true masters of prosperity have always understood. Abundance is something you allow, not something you earn through sheer force of will. Think about nature for a moment. Does the tree strain and struggle to produce fruit? Does the flower exhaust itself trying to bloom? Does the ocean work overtime to create waves? Of course not. There's an effortless quality to the way abundance flows in the natural world, a kind of graceful unfolding that happens when conditions are right. And you, my friend, are part of that same nature. You're not separate from this intelligent universe that knows exactly how to create, multiply, and flourish. But somewhere along your journey, you learned a different story. You learned that you had to prove yourself worthy of abundance. You learned that ease was suspicious, that if something came too easily, it couldn't possibly be valuable. You learned to distrust the very flow that wants to carry you toward prosperity. And in doing so, you created the biggest obstacle between yourself and the wealth you desire. You stopped allowing it in. Here's where this gets really interesting, and this is a transformation in perspective that changes everything. The more effort you put into forcing abundance, the more scarcity you actually create. It sounds like a paradox, doesn't it? You'd think that working harder would yield better results, that pushing yourself beyond your limits would finally break through to that next level of financial freedom. But the opposite is true, and here's why. Effort born from desperation carries the frequency of lack. When you're striving from a place of not enough, you're literally broadcasting to the universe that you don't have what you need. And the universe, in its perfect mirroring of your internal state, responds with more of that same energy. If this resonated with you, hit that subscribe button. I create content for people ready to shift from struggle to flow, and I want you here for what's coming next. The real issue has never been about money itself. Money is just energy, just a tool, just a neutral force waiting to flow. The real issue is trust. You've been operating from a belief system that says the universe is inherently stingy, that there's not enough to go around, that if you relax for even a moment, everything will fall apart. You've forgotten how to let life take care of you. You've forgotten that the same intelligence that beats your heart without your conscious effort, that grows your hair while you sleep, that orchestrates trillions of cells in perfect harmony within your body, that same intelligence is fully capable of organizing the circumstances, people, and opportunities needed to support your material well-being. Now, I want to go even deeper into this concept, because understanding this shift from earning to allowing is where the real magic happens. When you're in earning mode, you're tense. Your jaw is clenched, your shoulders are tight. Your mind is racing through calculations and strategies. You're running a mental spreadsheet, 24 hours a day, always measuring, always comparing, always finding yourself lacking. This state of constant tension creates an energetic barrier that prosperity simply cannot penetrate. It's like trying to receive a radio signal while surrounded by interference. The abundance is broadcasting, but you're too static-filled to tune in. The moment you shift into allowing mode, everything changes. Your body relaxes, your breathing deepens, your mind quiets. And in that spaciousness, in that openness, abundance finds a clear channel through which to flow. Decisions you make from this state are different. They're guided by intuition rather than desperation, by alignment rather than force. The impact of this shift ripples out into every area of your life, not just your finances. This is the revelation that changes the game entirely. You don't need to work harder. You need to trust deeper. You don't need more techniques. You need more surrender. You don't need another strategy. You need a fundamental transformation in how you relate to the flow of life itself. If this is resonating with you right now, if you're feeling that shift beginning to happen in your awareness, write in the comments, "I'm ready to allow." So what happens when you actually make that shift from fear to trust? What happens when you stop white-knuckling your way through life and finally relax into the flow? This is where the real transformation begins, and it's honestly one of the most beautiful Revelations you can experience. Real richness, the kind that fills your life with genuine satisfaction, begins the moment you stop operating from a place of fear and scarcity. And here's what's fascinating. When you make this internal shift, money starts to behave differently. But it's not just money. Opportunities start appearing, connections start forming, love starts flowing more freely. Everything changes because you've changed the fundamental frequency you're broadcasting. Think about the last time you felt truly relaxed and joyful. Maybe you were on vacation, maybe you were laughing with friends, maybe you were simply enjoying a beautiful sunset. In that moment, were you worried about money? Were you anxiously checking your bank account? Of course not. You were present, you were open, you were flowing with life. And I'd be willing to bet that when you're in those states, good things tend to happen. Unexpected gifts arrive. Someone mentions an opportunity, a solution to a problem. Suddenly becomes clear. This isn't luck. This is the law of energy in action. Money is energy, pure and simple. And like all energy, it responds not to what you're doing with your hands, but to what you're feeling in your heart. It responds to your inner frequency, not your outer labor. You could work 80 hours a week with your muscles tense and your mind anxious, and attract far less abundance than someone who works 20 hours a week with a playful spirit and a relaxed mind. This is the hidden truth that nobody wants to tell you because it doesn't fit the narrative we've been sold about success requiring suffering. The more playful your spirit, the more abundance life gives you. Read that again. Playfulness, joy, lightness. These aren't luxuries you get to experience after you become wealthy. They're actually the very qualities that attract wealth in the first place. When you're calm, when you're clear, when you're genuinely connected to the present moment, abundance finds its way to you naturally, almost magnetically. You become like a lighthouse, and prosperity is drawn to your light. But here's where most people get stuck on this journey. They think, okay, I understand this intellectually, but how do I actually feel joyful when my bills are due and my bank account is low? This is the critical point where mindset meets reality, where philosophy has to become practical. And the answer is simpler than you might think. You start small. You don't have to transform your entire emotional landscape overnight. You start by finding moments of genuine appreciation throughout your day. You start by noticing the abundance that already exists, the air you breathe freely, the water that flows from your tap, the technology that connects you to the world. These aren't small things. They're miracles you've grown accustomed to. Every time you acknowledge what's already working, what's already abundant, what's already flowing smoothly in your life, you're tuning your frequency to prosperity. You're training your nervous system to recognize abundance rather than fixate on lack. And this shift in focus has a tangible, measurable impact on your decisions, your behavior, and ultimately, your results. When you're focused on what's working, you make better choices. When you're vibrating at the frequency of gratitude and joy, you attract better opportunities. It's not mystical, it's energetic physics. The beauty of this approach is that it removes ambition from the equation, but not in the way you might think. You can still have goals, you can still desire growth, you can still want more for yourself and your family. But those desires come from a place of excitement and creative expansion rather than desperate need. There's a lightness to your ambition when it's born from joy instead of fear. And that lightness is what allows it to manifest effortlessly rather than through grinding struggle. What I'm describing here is a complete reversal of everything. You've been taught about achievement and success. It's the difference between pushing a boulder uphill and sailing with the wind at your back. Both might get you somewhere, but one exhausts you while the other exhilarates you. One makes wealth feel like a burden you have to carry, while the other makes it feel like a natural expression of who you are. If you're starting to see how this works, if you're recognizing the pattern in your own life where stress has pushed money away while joy has drawn it near, put in the comments, "Joy is my frequency." Now let me share with you one of the most profound revelations about wealth that completely changed my understanding of prosperity. True prosperity isn't about accumulation. It's not about how much you can pile up, how many zeros you can add to your bank account, or how many possessions you can surround yourself with. True prosperity is about alignment. It's about being in harmony with the infinite abundance that existence itself is, constantly expressing. And once you understand this, once you really grasp it at a deep level, money stops being your master and becomes your servant. Here's what I mean by alignment. Look at the universe for a moment. Look at how nature operates. There's no scarcity in the fundamental design of existence. The sun doesn't ration its light. The ocean doesn't worry about running out of waves. Trees don't count how many leaves they can afford to grow. Existence itself is infinitely rich, constantly creating, constantly expanding, constantly pouring forth abundance in every direction. Poverty, then, isn't a reflection of what's available in the universe. Poverty is simply a misunderstanding of energy. It's being out of alignment with the natural flow of abundance that's always present, always available. When you're aligned with this flow, decisions become easier, opportunities become clearer, resources show up exactly when you need them, not because you force them into existence through willpower, but because you've removed the internal resistance that was blocking them. Think of it like tuning a radio. The music is always broadcasting, but if you're slightly off the frequency, all you hear is static. Alignment is finding that clear channel where the signal comes through perfectly. But here's where this gets really interesting, and this is a truth that might sting a little at first. Your poverty has absolutely nothing to do with the lack of money. I know that sounds absurd when you're looking at an empty bank account or a pile of bills, but stay with me on this journey. What I'm talking about is something far deeper, something happening behind the scenes of your external circumstances. Your poverty is about what's in your mind. It's about the stories you tell yourself, the beliefs you carry, the constant internal dialogue that runs on repeat. You could be surrounded by gold, sitting on a mountain of wealth, and still live like a beggar if your mind is constantly striving, constantly fearing, constantly telling you it's not enough. I've met millionaires who are poor, not in their bank accounts but in their souls. They can't enjoy what they have because they're terrified of losing it. They can't celebrate their success because they're already worried about the next threat, the next downturn, the next person who might take it all away. That's poverty, even when it wears expensive clothes and drives luxury cars. If this opens something up for you, show some love with a like. It helps this message reach others who need to hear it. On the flip side, I've met people with very little material wealth who are genuinely rich. They wake up grateful. They share freely. They move through life with a sense of abundance that's palpable. Their mindset isn't focused on lack, it's focused on flow. They trust that what they need will come, and remarkably, it does. This isn't naive optimism or positive thinking platitudes. This is a fundamental shift in how they relate to existence itself. The transformation from poverty consciousness to prosperity consciousness isn't about changing your circumstances first. It's about changing your internal state, which then naturally shifts your circumstances. When you stop living from that place of not enough, when you stop the constant mental calculation of lack, when you release the fear that scarcity is your inevitable reality, something profound happens. You start making different choices. You start seeing opportunities you were previously blind to. You start attracting people and situations that match your new frequency. This is the hidden truth about wealth that the externally focused world will never teach you. The real work isn't out there. It's in here. The real transformation isn't in your strategy. It's in your consciousness. And the beautiful paradox is that when you shift your consciousness, your strategies naturally become more effective, your actions naturally become more aligned, and your results naturally become more abundant. The impact of understanding this cannot be overstated. When you realize that your financial reality is a reflection of your internal reality, you suddenly have power over something you thought was outside your control. You're no longer a victim of the economy, market forces, or bad luck. You're a creator, consciously shaping your experience through the quality of your thoughts and the energy you embody. If you're recognizing this pattern in your own life, if you're seeing how your thoughts about money have been creating your experience of money, write in the comments, "I choose abundance consciousness." Let's talk about something that might make you uncomfortable at first, but I promise you, this revelation will set you free. Real poverty isn't measured in dollars and cents. Real poverty is that endless, exhausting effort to get somewhere, to become someone, to finally prove your worth to the world. It's waking up every morning with a knot in your stomach, driven not by passion or purpose, but by anxiety. It's that relentless voice in your head saying you're not doing enough, you're not achieving enough, you're not enough, period. And here's the tragic part. You're not actually working for joy. You're working out of fear, convinced that if you stop for even a moment, if you dare to rest, everything will come crashing down around you. This fear is insidious because it disguises itself as motivation. It tells you it's keeping you safe, keeping you productive, keeping you ahead of the game. But what it's actually doing is poisoning your energy. Every action you take from this place of fear carries a toxic frequency that repels the very abundance you're working so hard to attract. Think about it. When you're in that state of constant anxiety, how do you feel? Your body is tight, your breathing is shallow, your mind is racing through worst-case scenarios. That's not the energy of someone who's about to receive abundance. That's the energy of someone who's blocking it at every turn. I've watched people burn themselves out this way, year after year, wondering why their hard work isn't translating into the prosperity they desperately seek. And the answer is always the same. They're working from fear, not from trust. They've forgotten that there's another way to move through life, a way that doesn't require constant tension and struggle. This transformation from fear-based action to trust-based action is perhaps the most important shift you can make on your financial journey. Because here's the hidden truth that changes everything. Abundance doesn't come to the tense. It comes to the trusting. The person who trusts existence, who genuinely believes that life is on their side, doesn't need to fight every step of the way. They don't need to force, manipulate, or control every outcome. They move through life with a different quality of energy entirely, one that's open, receptive, and surprisingly magnetic. The more relaxed you are, the more life opens its treasures to you. This isn't some mystical concept. This is practical wisdom that you can verify in your own experience. Think back to moments in your life when things flowed easily. Maybe you got a job without really trying. Maybe money showed up unexpectedly right when you needed it. Maybe an opportunity fell into your lap that you never could have planned for. What was your state of mind during those times? I'd be willing to bet you weren't tense and anxious. You were probably relaxed, maybe even playful. You had stepped back from the desperate need to control, and in that space of openness, life was able to deliver. The impact of this understanding on your daily decisions is enormous. When you're operating from fear, every choice is heavy with consequences. You second-guess yourself constantly. You play it safe even when opportunity is knocking. You say no to things that could expand your life because you're so focused on protecting what little you have. But when you're operating from trust, decisions become lighter. You can take inspired risks because you're not attached to one specific outcome. You can be generous because you trust there's more where that came from. You can rest without guilt because you know that your worth isn't measured by your productivity. This shift from tension to trust is where the real magic happens, where your entire relationship with money and abundance undergoes a fundamental transformation. It's not about pretending you don't have responsibilities or bills to pay. It's about approaching those responsibilities from a completely different energetic foundation. Instead of, I must work hard or I'll fail, it becomes, I trust that as I show up authentically, life will support me. Can you feel the difference in those two statements? One constricts your energy, the other expands it. If this resonates with you, if you're ready to release the fear and step into trust, write in comments, I trust the flow. Now let me challenge another belief that's probably been drilled into you since childhood. We've been told our entire lives that hard work is the key to wealth, that if you just put in enough hours, enough sweat, enough sacrifice, prosperity will inevitably follow. But if that were true, if hard work alone created wealth, then every laborer breaking their back in the fields would be a millionaire. Every factory worker pulling double shifts would be living in luxury. Every single parent working 3 jobs would be financially free. But they're not, are they? And that should tell you something profound about the real mechanics of abundance. Hard work without awareness is just a more respectable form of slavery. It's socially acceptable exhaustion. It's burnout with a badge of honor. You end up running in circles, faster and faster, working harder and harder, and yet somehow you're still in the same place. You're tired, you're bitter, you're wondering when your effort is finally going to pay off. And the heartbreaking truth is that effort alone, without consciousness, without awareness of how energy actually works, will never get you where you want to go. This is one of those revelations that can feel devastating at first, because it means all those years of grinding might have been based on a faulty premise. But here's where this transforms from depressing to liberating. Once you understand that it's not about working harder, but about working with awareness, about aligning your energy with the natural flow of abundance, everything changes. You stop being a slave to the hustle and start becoming a partner with life itself. And this shift in perspective has an immediate impact on how you approach your days, your decisions, your entire relationship with work and money. Let me give you a powerful metaphor that completely changed how I see this. Life is like a river. You were meant to flow with it, not carry it. But most people are trying to carry the river. They're scooping up water in buckets, running back and forth, exhausting themselves, trying to move something that was already moving on its own. They've confused participation with control. The man who chases money is like a farmer who goes into his field and starts pulling on the plants to make them grow faster. What happens? He destroys the very thing he's trying to cultivate. He rips the roots, damages the stems, and wonders why his harvest fails. This is exactly what happens when you approach abundance with force instead of flow. You're interfering with a natural process that knows how to unfold on its own. Your job isn't to make things happen through sheer willpower. Your job is to create the right conditions, to align yourself with the current, to trust the intelligence of the river. When you do this, when you stop trying to control every outcome and instead focus on being in harmony with the flow, you discover something remarkable. Life was never asking you to struggle. It was asking you to surrender. Now, surrender doesn't mean giving up or being passive. It means releasing your death grip on how things should unfold. It means doing your work with full presence and awareness, but without the desperate attachment to specific results. It means trusting that as you show up aligned, relaxed, and open, the river of abundance will carry you exactly where you need to go. This is the journey from force to flow, from control to cooperation, from anxiety to ease. The hidden truth behind all of this is that your awareness, your consciousness, your energetic state matters far more than the hours you clock or the tasks you complete. Two people can do the exact same work, But the one who does it from a place of joy, presence, and trust will attract exponentially more abundance than the one who does it from fear, resentment, and desperation. The difference isn't in what they're doing. It's in who they're being while they're doing it. If you're starting to see how this applies to your own life, if you're recognizing the places where you've been pulling on the plants instead of letting them grow, put in the comments, "I flow with life." So let's get to the core of how this actually works on an energetic level, because once you understand this, you'll never look at money the same way again. Money is energy, not metaphorically, but literally. It's a form of energy that flows through the world, and like all energy, it responds to harmony. Think about how music works. When instruments are in tune, the sound is beautiful and magnetic. When they're out of tune, even slightly, the sound is jarring, and people naturally move away from it. Your life operates on the exact same principle. When your mind is in chaos, when you're constantly stressed, scattered, and overwhelmed, your life will reflect that chaos perfectly. Your finances will be chaotic. Your relationships will be turbulent. Opportunities will slip through your fingers because you're vibrating at a frequency that repels rather than attracts. But here's the beautiful part, the part that gives you complete power over your circumstances. When you're relaxed, when your mind is calm and clear, opportunities begin to appear without any effort on your part. They simply show up as if by magic because you've become magnetic to them. Relaxation is magnetism. Effort, especially frantic effort, is resistance. When you're pushing, forcing, and struggling, you're actually creating resistance against the very flow you're trying to tap into. It's like trying to swim upstream while wondering why you're not making progress. The transformation happens when you turn around and let the current carry you. Suddenly, you're moving faster with less effort, and the journey becomes enjoyable rather than exhausting. This understanding completely changes how you approach your decisions and your daily life. Instead of asking, "How hard do I need to work today?" you start asking, "How can I bring more harmony into my energy today?" Instead of measuring success by how exhausted you are, you start measuring it by how aligned you feel. And the impact of this shift is profound because when you're in harmony, you make better decisions, you attract better opportunities, and you create better results with a fraction of the effort. Now, let me address something that keeps so many people trapped in scarcity, something that's been woven into the very fabric of our culture. The mindset of competition. We've been taught that life is a race, that we need to outperform others, that someone else's success somehow diminishes our own potential. But this entire paradigm is built on a foundation of fear. It's the fear that there isn't enough to go around, that if someone else gets the promotion, or makes the money, or achieves the success, that means less for you. And here's the hidden truth that nobody wants to acknowledge. This fear of scarcity creates actual scarcity in your vibration. When you're constantly comparing yourself to others, constantly trying to beat them or prove you're better, you're broadcasting to the universe that you believe in lack. You're affirming with every competitive thought that abundance is limited, that you have to fight for your piece of the pie, and the universe, in its perfect mirroring of your beliefs, responds by giving you exactly that experience: struggle, competition, and limitation. But when you trust life's abundance, when you genuinely understand that there's more than enough for everyone, competition becomes meaningless. It's not that you become complacent or lazy. It's that you shift from a scarcity-based drive to an abundance-based inspiration. You can celebrate other people's wins because you know their success doesn't diminish yours. You can collaborate instead of compete because you understand that rising together creates more opportunity for everyone. This shift from competition to cooperation is one of the most powerful transformations you can make on your journey toward genuine prosperity. The revelation here is that every moment you spend in competitive anxiety is a moment you're blocking your own abundance. Every thought of, "they have what I want," is creating separation between you and the flow of prosperity. But every moment you spend in harmonious appreciation, every genuine celebration of someone else's success, opens the channel wider for your own blessings to flow through. If you're ready to release the competitive mindset and step into abundance consciousness, write in the comments, "There's enough for everyone." Here's something that might sound completely backwards until you really think about it. Money comes to those who are not desperate for it. I know when you're struggling financially, this seems like the cruelest paradox, but it's absolutely true. And understanding why this is true will transform your entire approach to prosperity. Money flows to those who are in tune with their purpose, to those who work from passion rather than need. It gravitates toward people who are doing what they love, what they're called to do, regardless of the immediate payoff. The universe doesn't reward struggle. It rewards alignment. When you're aligned with your purpose, when you're expressing your unique gifts, when you're doing work that lights you up inside, you emit a completely different frequency. You become magnetic in a way that desperate effort can never achieve. People feel it. Opportunities sense it. Money responds to it. This is the hidden truth behind every story of someone who followed their passion and the money followed. It wasn't luck. It was energy, pure and simple. But here's where this gets really practical. Where the philosophy meets your everyday life, you need to start thinking about energy as your real currency, not the dollars in your bank account, but the quality of your life force, your attention, your presence. Every breath you spend in worry is a coin wasted. Think about that. Every moment you spend anxious about money, every hour you lose to stress and fear, that's your actual wealth draining away. Every moment of peace you sacrifice to endless striving is gold you're throwing away. This is a complete reversal of how most people think about wealth creation. They believe wealth comes from doing more, achieving more, accumulating more. But true wealth is created not by what you do, but by how you are. It's created by the quality of your consciousness, the state of your being, the energy you bring to each moment. You could work 16-hour days and create very little real wealth if those hours are filled with anxiety, resentment, and disconnection. Or you could work 4 focused, joyful, aligned hours and create abundance that ripples out in every direction. The transformation happens when you start valuing your energetic state as much as your bank account balance. When you make decisions not just based on will this make me money, but will this increase or decrease my life force? When you start protecting your peace as fiercely as you protect your possessions, because your peace is your prosperity, your joy is your wealth, your alignment is your abundance. This shift in perspective has an immediate impact on everything. The way you spend your time changes, the opportunities you say yes to change, the people you surround yourself with change. Because you're no longer willing to trade your energy, your real currency, for anything that doesn't align with who you truly are. And paradoxically, the moment you stop being willing to sell your soul for money, money starts showing up more easily. There's something powerful that happens when you value yourself this way. When you treat your energy as sacred, you start to naturally gravitate toward work that fulfills you. You start to say no to opportunities that would drain you, even if they pay well. You start to create boundaries that protect your vitality, and in doing so, you become someone that abundance wants to flow through because you're no longer leaking energy in 1,000 different directions. If you're beginning to see your energy as your most valuable asset, write in the comments, "My energy is my wealth." Now I want to introduce you to a concept that's going to completely flip your understanding of productivity and success. True laziness isn't what you think it is. In fact, The kind of laziness I'm talking about is actually the highest form of effectiveness. Real laziness doesn't mean inaction or avoidance. It means effortless action. It means letting the universe move through you rather than constantly trying to push the universe with your own limited strength. This is the great paradox of life that most people never discover. When you watch a master at work, whether it's an artist, an athlete, or an entrepreneur, there's a quality of ease to what they do. They're not straining or forcing. They're in flow. They've learned to work with the current of life rather than against it. Their actions are powerful precisely because they're effortless. They've tapped into something bigger than their individual will, and they're allowing that greater intelligence to express itself through them. This is what real mastery looks like, and it's available to anyone willing to release the belief that struggle equals value. The transformation from forced action to effortless action changes everything about your journey. Your decisions become clearer because you're not clouded by desperation. Your work becomes more impactful because you're channeling energy rather than depleting it. Your results improve because you're cooperating with natural laws rather than fighting against them. And the most beautiful part, you actually enjoy the process instead of enduring it. But here's the revelation that might be the most liberating thing you hear today. All your struggle was never necessary. Not a single bit of it. Life was waiting to give you everything you needed, everything you desired, everything you've been working so hard to achieve. But you were too busy asking, too busy demanding, too busy trying to force outcomes. You were so focused on the struggle that you couldn't see the gifts being offered. When you stop striving, something miraculous happens. You start receiving. This isn't about sitting back and doing nothing while waiting for money to fall from the sky. It's about understanding that receiving is an art, and most people are absolutely terrible at it. We've been trained to earn, to deserve, to prove ourselves worthy. But abundance doesn't operate on that system. It's not about deserving. It's about allowing. It's about being open enough, relaxed enough, trusting enough to let life give to you. Think about a child receiving a gift. They don't question whether they deserve it. They don't analyze whether they've worked hard enough for it. They simply receive it with joy and gratitude. Somewhere along the way to adulthood, we lost that natural capacity to receive. We made it complicated. We made it conditional. We made it dependent on our worthiness. And in doing so, we shut down the very channel through which abundance flows. The impact of learning to receive again cannot be overstated. When you release the need to deserve, when you let go of the constant mental accounting of whether you've done enough to warrant abundance, you open yourself to a flow of prosperity that has nothing to do with your effort and everything to do with your openness. You discover that life wants to give to you, has always wanted to give to you, and was simply waiting for you to stop resisting long enough to let it in. If you're ready to stop struggling and start receiving, write in the comments, "I am open to receive." There's an old teaching story that perfectly illustrates why most people stay trapped in financial struggle, and once you hear it, you'll never forget it. Imagine a monkey that reaches into a narrow jar to grab a handful of rice. The opening is just wide enough for its empty hand to slip through, but once it makes a fist around the rice, the hand becomes trapped. The monkey could easily free itself by simply opening its hand and letting go of the rice, but it refuses. It values those few grains more than its freedom, and so it stays trapped, not by the jar, but by its own unwillingness to release. This is humanity's story with money. We grip so tightly to what we have, to what we think we need, to our strategies and our plans and our desperate attempts to control outcomes. And in that very gripping, we trap ourselves. The hidden truth is devastatingly simple. Open your hands, and the whole world opens before you. Release your death grip on how abundance should come, when it should arrive, what form it should take, and suddenly you're free. Suddenly, the universe has space to surprise you with opportunities you never could have planned for. This is where the real transformation occurs, in the letting go. Every time you release control, every time you choose trust over tension, you're creating space for something greater to enter your life. The impact of this one shift, from gripping to releasing, changes not just your financial reality, but your entire experience of being alive. Decisions become easier when you're not clutching. Opportunities become visible when your hands are open. Joy becomes possible when you're not constantly protecting and hoarding. Now let me show you what allowance really means, because it's often misunderstood as passivity or weakness. Allowance is actually the highest form of participation with life. Look at everything in nature, and you'll see this principle in perfect action. Everything exists in the effortless rhythm of allowance. The tree doesn't rush to grow. It doesn't wake up anxious every morning, wondering if it's growing fast enough, if its leaves are green enough, if it's producing enough fruit. It simply allows the intelligence of nature to express through it. The seasons change, the sap rises, the roots deepen, all without force, all without struggle. The flower doesn't strain to bloom. Can you imagine a rosebud trying desperately to open itself, pulling at its own petals in frustration? It sounds absurd, yet this is exactly what we do with our lives. We try to force ourselves into bloom before the right time. We pull and push and manipulate, and then we wonder why things feel so difficult. The flower simply allows the warmth of the sun, the nourishment of the soil, the passage of time to do what they naturally do. And in that allowance, in that surrender to the process, it creates something beautiful. This is the journey every person must take, from doing to being, from forcing to allowing, from control to cooperation. When you understand that allowance isn't giving up, but rather tuning in to a greater wisdom, everything shifts. You stop exhausting yourself trying to make things happen and start positioning yourself to let things unfold. You become a partner with life rather than someone constantly at war with circumstances. If this is resonating, if you're seeing how your grip has been your prison, write in the comments, "I let go and allow." Here's something you need to understand about the nature of money, and it's going to sound strange at first, but stay with me. Money, like love, is shy. It has a consciousness to it, an intelligence that responds to your energy. And just like love, it doesn't come to the beggar, it doesn't respond to desperation or neediness. Money comes to the one who is already full, to the person who radiates a sense of completeness and wholeness. It comes to the still, not the chaser. And this is why so many people who desperately need money can't seem to attract it, while those who are relaxed about it seem to have it flow toward them effortlessly. The transformation required here is subtle but profound. You must become receptive, open, and relaxed. Notice I didn't say you need to become more aggressive, more strategic, or more driven. Those qualities actually repel abundance because they come from a place of lack. Receptivity is a completely different energy. It's feminine, welcoming, spacious. It says to the universe, "I'm ready, I'm open, I trust." And in that state of openness, money finds you because you finally stopped running away from it by chasing it. This paradox shows up everywhere once you start looking for it. The person who's desperately seeking a relationship often stays single, while the person who's content alone suddenly attracts love. The job seeker who's anxious and needy in interviews rarely gets the offer, while the candidate who's calm and confident, already knowing their worth, gets multiple offers. Money operates on the exact same principle. The moment you stop needing it so desperately, the moment you cultivate that inner fullness, regardless of your external circumstances, it begins to show up in ways you never expected. Now let me share something about how to actually cultivate this state of receptive fullness, because it's not just a mental concept. It requires a shift in how you relate to life itself. Meditation isn't something you do, I know that sounds contradictory, but it's a crucial revelation. Real meditation is something that happens when you stop doing. It happens when you finally release the need to control, to achieve, to become something other than what you are. Just sit and breathe. That's it. Let silence find you. Don't chase it. Don't try to manufacture it. Just create the space for it to arrive. The moment you stop pushing, grace enters. This is true for meditation, and it's equally true for abundance. Think about it. When have you ever forced grace? When have you ever muscled your way into a moment of genuine peace or joy? It doesn't work that way. Grace arrives when you step back, when you surrender, when you finally admit that your efforts to control everything have been exhausting and futile. And in that admission, in that letting go, something beautiful happens. Life rushes in to support you in ways your controlling mind never could have orchestrated. The impact of this understanding on your daily life is immediate and tangible. Instead of waking up with a mental to-do list a mile long, you wake up and breathe. You create space. You allow yourself to be guided by something deeper than your anxious mind. And from that place of stillness, the right actions arise naturally, not forced, not desperate, but aligned and effortless. If you're discovering the power of stillness over striving, write in the comments, "Stillness is my superpower." When you act from relaxation, something remarkable happens to the quality of your actions. Every gesture becomes powerful, not because you're forcing it, but because it's aligned with the rhythm of the whole. There's a coherence to your energy when you're relaxed, a kind of harmony that makes everything you do more effective. Compare this to acting from fear, which divides your energy and exhausts you before you've even accomplished anything. Fear splits you in two, one part moving forward while another part pulls back, and in that internal conflict you drain yourself completely. Wholeness creates miracles, and wholeness only comes when you're relaxed enough to be fully present with what is. This is the hidden truth behind why some people seem to accomplish extraordinary things with apparent ease, while others struggle endlessly for mediocre results. It's not about talent or intelligence or even opportunity. It's about the energetic foundation from which they operate. When your foundation is relaxation and trust, your actions carry a different frequency. They ripple out into the world with power because they're not fighting against themselves. The impact of one aligned action from a relaxed state can exceed the impact of 100 actions taken from fear and desperation. Now let me tell you something that might save you years of frustration and wasted effort. The universe responds to vibration, not to words. You cannot deceive existence with affirmations or mantras if your inner energy is tense and desperate. I know there's a whole industry built around positive thinking and manifestation techniques, and some of it has value, but here's what they don't tell you. No amount of repeating, "I am abundant," will work if your body is clenched in fear, if your breath is shallow with anxiety, if your heart is racing with desperation. The universe doesn't hear your words. It reads your energy signature like a barcode, and it responds to that, not to what you're claiming with your mouth. Money comes when you're ready, and readiness has nothing to do with how many affirmations you've said or vision boards you've created. Readiness is a state of being. It's having openness instead of contraction. It's having trust instead of doubt. It's having receptivity instead of grasping. When you're truly ready, when your vibration has shifted to match the frequency of abundance, money shows up naturally because you've become a match for it. You've tuned your radio to the right station, and suddenly the music is crystal clear. This is the journey from pretending to embodying, from hoping to knowing, from trying to being. So many people are trying to fake it until they make it, putting on a mask of confidence while their insides are churning with fear. But you can't fake your vibration. Your body knows the truth, the universe knows the truth, and until you do the inner work to actually shift your energetic state, no amount of external technique will produce lasting results. The transformation has to be real, has to be authentic, has to come from a genuine shift in consciousness. What does this mean practically? It means that before you take any action toward creating more abundance, you need to check in with your energy. Are you acting from alignment or from anxiety? Are you moving from inspiration or from desperation? The decision to pause and feel into your state before you act is perhaps the most important habit you can develop. If you're understanding that your vibration is everything, write in the comments, "I embody abundance." Have you ever noticed that when you're genuinely happy and relaxed, good things just seem to happen? It's not coincidence, and it's not wishful thinking. It's the law of energetic resonance in action. The frequency of joy attracts abundance in the same way that the frequency of anxiety attracts scarcity. These aren't metaphors. These are actual energetic patterns that the universe responds to with mathematical precision. When you're joyful, you're sending a signal to existence that says, "I trust you. I know you've got my back. Life is good." And existence, hearing that signal, responds generously with more reasons to feel joyful, more abundance to celebrate, more opportunities to expand. But when you're anxious, when you're constantly worrying and calculating and fearing the worst, you're broadcasting an entirely different message. You're saying, "Life is dangerous. There's not enough. I can't trust what's coming." And existence, in its perfect mirroring of your internal state, gives you exactly that experience. More things to worry about, more scarcity to confirm your fears, more evidence that you were right to be anxious. The transformation from anxiety to joy isn't just about feeling better, though that's wonderful in itself. It's about fundamentally changing what you attract into your life. This is why the happiest people often seem to be the luckiest people. They're not actually luckier. They're just operating on a frequency that naturally attracts positive outcomes. Their decisions come from a place of trust rather than fear, so they make better choices. Their energy is welcoming rather than defensive, so people want to help them. Their vibration is aligned with abundance, so opportunities flow their way. The impact of cultivating genuine joy in your life cannot be overstated. It's not a luxury or a bonus. It's the foundation of everything you want to create. Now let me share with you what might be the most important shift you can make in your entire relationship with abundance. Abundance is received, not achieved. Stop trying to achieve it. Stop making it a goal to chase, a mountain to climb, a prize to win. You don't chase abundance. You make space for it. And making space is a completely different activity than chasing. Making space means releasing what's cluttering your energy. It means letting go of beliefs that no longer serve you. It means relaxing into trust instead of tightening into control. Existence is infinitely abundant. The universe isn't running out of anything. There's no shortage of creativity, no scarcity of opportunity, no limitation on how much prosperity can flow. The only limitation is your willingness to receive it. Existence is literally waiting for your permission to give. It's not withholding from you out of cruelty or judgment. It's respecting your energetic boundaries. When you're closed, contracted, and fearful, you're essentially saying no thanks to the gifts life wants to offer. But when you relax, when you open, when you become like the open sky, spacious and welcoming, suddenly there's room for abundance to pour in. Think about the sky for a moment. It doesn't reject anything. Clouds pass through it, birds fly through it, storms move through it, and the sky remains vast, open, unchanging. It allows everything without being diminished by anything. This is the quality you're cultivating when you learn to receive abundance. You become the open sky, and you let prosperity flow through you without clutching, without fearing its loss, without making it define your worth. If you're ready to become that open space for abundance, write in the comments, "I am the open sky." Now I want to reveal something that completely transforms how you think about wealth creation. Money doesn't come from taking, from extracting, from getting your piece of the pie before someone else does. Money comes from creating. It comes from adding value, from expressing something unique, from bringing something into existence that wasn't there before. The universe rewards expression. When you share your energy, when you share your ideas, when you share your joy and creativity, with the world, existence pours abundance into you, not as payment, but as a natural consequence of your participation in the creative flow of life. This is the hidden truth behind every genuine fortune that's ever been built. The people who create real wealth aren't the ones who hoard and protect and take. They're the ones who give, who create, who add something meaningful to the world. They understand that creation itself is the real currency, and money is simply the reflection of value they've brought into existence. When you shift from a taking mindset to a creating mindset, everything changes. Your work becomes play. Your effort becomes expression. Your contribution becomes your greatest joy. The transformation here is profound because it removes the ceiling on your potential prosperity. When you're trying to take from a limited pie, there's only so much you can grab. But when you're creating, when you're adding to the abundance of the world, there's literally no limit to what you can generate. Every act of creation multiplies the overall wealth in existence. You're not competing for resources. You're expanding the resources available to everyone. But here's where this gets really practical, where the philosophy meets your bank account. Money, like blood, must circulate. If blood stops flowing in your body, you die. If money stops flowing in your financial life, it becomes poison. It stagnates, it loses its vitality, it actually begins to harm you. A flowing river stays pure, constantly refreshed by new water moving through it. A stagnant pond rots, becomes toxic, breeds disease. Your relationship with money works exactly the same way. The more freely money moves through you, the more existence trusts you with it. Think about it. If you were the universe, would you give more abundance to someone who clutches every penny in fear, or to someone who lets money flow generously, trusting that more will always come? The person who hoards sends a signal of scarcity. The person who circulates sends a signal of abundance. And the universe, reading those signals, responds accordingly. This isn't about being reckless or foolish with money. It's about understanding that generosity, circulation, and flow are actually the mechanisms through which more abundance enters your life. The impact of this understanding on your daily decisions is immediate. When you get money, your first question changes from "How can I protect this?" to "How can I use this energy wisely, knowing more is always flowing to me?" When you spend money, you do so with joy rather than fear. When you give money, you do so knowing you're participating in the circulation that keeps abundance alive and moving. Behind the scenes of every financial decision, there's now a deeper wisdom operating. If you're ready to let money flow through you rather than clutch it in fear, write in the comments, "I am a channel for abundance." Here's something you need to understand about the nature of life itself. Life is extravagant. It doesn't do anything halfway. Look at a single tree and count the seeds it produces, thousands upon thousands, far more than necessary for reproduction. Look at the stars scattered across the night sky, billions of galaxies when one would have been enough. Life overflows. It's excessive, generous, abundant beyond measure. And abundance belongs to those who dare to express, to those who have the courage to show up fully, to share their gifts without holding back. When you became afraid to create, you became poor. Not poor in your bank account necessarily, but poor in spirit, poor in vitality, poor in the very life force that attracts prosperity. Life flows through the courageous, through the ones willing to be seen, to be vulnerable, to put their unique expression into the world without knowing how it will be received. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the willingness to create despite the fear, to give your gift anyway, to trust that your authentic expression has value even when you can't see the immediate return. This is where most people get stuck on their journey to abundance. They're waiting for permission, waiting for certainty, waiting for a guarantee that if they express themselves, it will be rewarded. But life doesn't work that way. The reward is in the expression itself. The abundance comes as a natural consequence of your willingness to participate fully, to add your unique color to the tapestry of existence. When you hold back your creativity out of fear, you're essentially telling the universe, I don't trust you enough to show you who I really am. And the universe, respecting your choice, keeps its abundance at the same distance you're keeping your authentic self. Now let me share something that changed everything for me, a revelation that freed me from years of creative paralysis and financial struggle. Abundance comes when you stop trading authenticity for approval. Think about how much energy you waste trying to figure out what others want, what will sell, what will make you look good, what will earn their approval. In that calculation, in that constant adjustment to please others, you lose the very thing that makes your work valuable. Your authentic voice, your unique perspective, your irreplaceable essence. True creativity is a prayer to existence. It's an offering, a gift, a way of saying thank you for this life by adding beauty, by solving problems, by bringing something new into being. When you create from joy, when you create not for gain but because you can't not create, you align with the divine nature of life itself. And in that alignment, abundance becomes inevitable. You're no longer trying to extract something from the world. You're participating in the world's own creative overflow. The impact of this shift from approval-seeking to authentic expression cannot be overstated. Your work takes on a different quality when it comes from genuine joy rather than strategic calculation. People can feel the difference. There's a resonance, an aliveness to creation that comes from the heart. And that resonance is what attracts true abundance, the kind that doesn't just fill your bank account, but fills your soul. If you're ready to create from authenticity rather than approval, write in the comments, "My truth is my wealth." Let me tell you about the difference between creating wealth from inspiration versus creating it from obligation, because this distinction will determine not just how much money you make, but how you feel while making it. Real wealth comes from inspiration, not obligation. When you wake up in the morning and your work feels like duty, like something you have to do rather than something you want to do, you're heavy. Your energy is dragged down by the weight of should and must. But when you act from joy, when your work comes from genuine inspiration, you're light. You move differently, you think differently, you create differently. The world has enough laborers, enough people grinding through their days out of obligation. What the world desperately needs is more creators and dreamers, more people willing to follow their inspiration wherever it leads, because inspiration is life speaking through you. It's the universe guiding you toward your unique contribution. When you honor that inspiration, when you make decisions based on what lights you up rather than what you think you should do, you tap into a source of energy that's inexhaustible. Obligation drains you. Inspiration fuels you. This transformation from obligation to inspiration is one of the most important shifts you can make on your journey. It changes the quality of everything you produce. Work that comes from obligation is competent at best. Work that comes from inspiration is extraordinary. And the market, the universe, life itself knows the difference and rewards accordingly. The impact of following your inspiration rather than your sense of duty ripples out in ways you can't predict, but will always exceed your expectations. Now I want to share with you what happens when you truly embody the principles we've been exploring, when they move from concepts in your mind to lived experiences in your body. Giving stops feeling like sacrifice and starts feeling like breathing. Think about how natural breathing is. You inhale, you exhale. You don't calculate whether you're breathing too much or not enough. You don't worry about running out of air. You don't strategize about when to breathe next. It's natural, effortless, rhythmic. This is what happens when you understand the true nature of abundance. When you give from a place of genuine overflow, when you share your resources, your time, your energy, your money, because you trust that more is always flowing to you. There's no tension in it. There's no sense of loss, no feeling of sacrifice, no internal negotiation about whether you can afford to be generous. You simply give the way you exhale, naturally releasing what you no longer need, making space for fresh energy to enter. You receive the way you inhale, gratefully taking in what life is offering, knowing it's yours to enjoy and then pass along. This rhythm of giving and receiving, when it becomes as natural as breathing, is the clearest sign that you've transcended scarcity consciousness and entered abundance consciousness. You're no longer keeping score, no longer worried about getting back what you give, no longer calculating whether you're ahead or behind. You're simply in flow, participating in the endless circulation of energy that is life itself. If you're experiencing giving as natural flow rather than painful sacrifice, write in the comments, "Giving is my nature." There's a beautiful image I want to share with you that perfectly illustrates the true nature of generosity. A candle that lights another candle loses nothing. In fact, the light doubles. This is the hidden truth about giving that scarcity-minded people never understand. What you give doesn't disappear into some void, never to be seen again. It transforms, it multiplies, it creates ripples that eventually come back to you in forms you might never have imagined. Every act of genuine giving opens space through which life can enter, through which new opportunities, new relationships, new abundance can flow into your experience. When you understand this, when you really grasp that giving creates space rather than emptiness, your entire relationship with prosperity undergoes a fundamental transformation. You stop being afraid of having less and start getting excited about creating more flow. The journey from hoarding to sharing is the journey from poverty to wealth, regardless of the numbers in your bank account. Now let me reveal to you what might be the single most powerful force for attracting abundance that exists. Gratitude is the most powerful magnet in existence. Nothing else even comes close. When you're grateful, you're sending the clearest possible signal to the universe that you trust it, that you recognize its generosity, that you're paying attention to what's working. And life gives to those who celebrate, not to those who complain. Think about your own experience. Who do you want to give to? The person who's constantly complaining about what they don't have, or the person who's genuinely appreciative of what they've received? The impact of cultivating real gratitude, not just as a practice, but as a way of being, cannot be overstated. It transforms your perception instantly. Things you took for granted suddenly become miracles. Moments you would have rushed past become treasures. And in that shift of awareness, you realize you're already living in abundance, you just weren't seeing it clearly. But here's what you need to understand about how this actually works behind the scenes of reality. Words are cheap. Energy is priceless. You can say affirmations all day long. You can write gratitude lists until your hand cramps. But if your energy, your actual vibration, doesn't match those words, nothing changes. One moment of genuine gratitude, one moment of deep joy, one moment of absolute trust is enough to open doors that logic could never open, that strategy could never unlock, that effort could never force. Frequency is emotional, not intellectual. You can't think your way into abundance. You have to feel your way into it. This is why stillness is so crucial to prosperity. A calm lake reflects the moon perfectly, showing its complete image without distortion. A choppy, agitated lake breaks the reflection into fragments. When your mind is calm, when you've cultivated inner stillness, you reflect the universe's abundance clearly, and it flows into your life without resistance. Stillness isn't passivity, isn't giving up, isn't checking out. Stillness is presence. It's being so fully here, so completely available, that life can move through you unobstructed. If gratitude is becoming your natural state, write in the comments, "Gratitude is my frequency." Let me share with you what true wealth actually looks like, because it's probably not what you've been taught to believe. The richest man isn't the one who owns the world, who has the biggest bank account or the most possessions. The richest man is the one who has no need to own anything at all. True wealth is freedom from need. When you're no longer driven by constant wanting, when you're no longer chasing the next thing to fill the void inside, when you're no longer possessed by your possessions, you step into a wealth that cannot be lost, cannot be taken away, cannot fluctuate with markets or economies. This is the transformation from having to being, from accumulation to liberation. Most people spend their entire lives building a prison of possessions, thinking each new acquisition will finally make them feel secure, finally make them feel complete. But the opposite happens. The more you own, the more you have to protect, to maintain, to worry about losing. Real freedom comes when you realize you don't need any of it to be whole. Now, this doesn't mean you can't enjoy beautiful things or create material abundance. This is where most people misunderstand what I'm saying. Detachment isn't rejection. It's not about becoming a minimalist or renouncing the world. Detachment is freedom from obsession. It's the ability to enjoy wealth, to experience love, to appreciate beauty, without being enslaved by any of it. It's intimacy without ownership, love without fear. You can hold something precious in your hands while simultaneously being willing to release it. That's mastery. The impact of this kind of detachment on your daily decisions is profound. You stop making choices from fear of loss and start making them from genuine preference. You can walk away from situations that don't serve you because your well-being isn't tied to external circumstances. You can be generous because you're not clutching. You can take risks because you know your value isn't in what you own. Behind the scenes of this detachment is something even more fundamental. When you're grateful, when you live in constant gratitude, you become magnetic to everything beautiful. But here's what most people miss. Gratitude is not a technique to manipulate the universe into giving you more. Real gratitude has no motive. It's simply the natural response of a consciousness that recognizes how miraculous existence already is. Gratitude isn't something you do to get abundance. Gratitude is the state of consciousness that is abundance. And this brings us to the ultimate revelation, the one truth that underlies everything we've talked about today. The secret was never in techniques or affirmations or strategies. The secret was never outside of you at all. It's in your state of consciousness. The more relaxed you are, the more grateful you are, the more present you are, the more life flows toward you. Abundance isn't something you reach for, something distant that you have to work your way toward. Abundance is what you already are. It's your natural state. You just have to stop blocking it with fear, with struggle, with the belief that you're separate from the infinite creativity of existence itself. If you're recognizing yourself as abundance itself, write in the comments, "I am abundance." If you've made it this far, if you've stayed with me through this entire journey, I want you to know something. You're not here by accident. The fact that these words resonated with you, that something inside you recognized the truth in what we've explored together, that's significant. You're ready for this shift. You're ready to step out of the struggle and into the flow. I create these videos because I believe this message needs to reach people who are tired of the old way, who know there has to be something more than the endless grind. If this resonated with you, if you have found value in what we've explored today, I'd love for you to subscribe to the channel. Not because I need the numbers, but because I want to continue this conversation with you. There's so much more to discover about living in alignment, about creating prosperity from consciousness, about becoming the person abundance naturally flows toward. And leave a comment right now, just write, "This message was meant for me." Let me know you are here, that you received this, that you're part of this community of people choosing a different path. I read every comment, and there's something powerful about declaring your intention, about putting into words that you're ready for this transformation. If this video shifted something in you, if you felt that click of recognition, go ahead and hit the like button. It helps this message reach others who need to hear it, others who are still stuck in the belief that struggle is the only way. And listen, there's a video right here that goes even deeper into how to maintain this state of effortless abundance, even when life throws challenges your way. Click and continue with me over there. Let's keep this journey going together.